Alright, hello and welcome everyone. I'm here for the Objective Personality 2 years on review of the typing questions. I'm lucky enough to have two of my great friends, Lenny and Pav. They've actually refused to be on the camera, but that's okay. So their mission today is to challenge what I say. If they think anything's unclear or they think it's BS, call it out and we'll see how we go. We've got the lovely beach behind. I do apologise for the noise, but let's get started. So what's the first question, guys? What's my average day week like? Okay, I've actually made some notes to assist talking about this. So firstly, in Australia, or at least for myself, I found I've been unimpacted by COVID. So overall, I describe my average day week like as happy plodding. That's where I'm at. In regards to structure, it's we've struck a balance that works out quite well. We've got enough planning, so there's certainty, but we've also got enough flexibility to meet unplanned events such as today where we're at the beach. Can I have a beer, guys, as well? Oh, cool. Cheers. So that aside, one of the things we've found with Ali and myself, my partner, is that we need to have planning throughout we need to know what's coming up next. What we found is that when we approach a day as Carpe Diem, we haven't been able to seize that day. It's been awkward. There's no motivation to figure out what to do. It feels stressful to figure out what to do last minute. So, yeah, correct. Like if I wake up on a Sunday, it's like, what should we do with the kids today? It's just too much. Can't be bothered. So we end up doing nothing. So by having some sort of general, we like to have a backbone, and then the rest of it fleshes out as it does. So that's the structure. The experience itself, I would say, is quite positive. Like I said, happy plodding. That's what it feels like to me at the moment. There's not really an overall direction to what we do, to the approach every day. I just know, and I'll check my notes on what I wrote. Look, the hardest thing with the experience is the balance to self, family, work, relationships. Fitting that time, we know how hard that can be. The other key thing I note is that on average day to day, emotions seem not as high and low as what they used to be. A lot of things are much more steady state, both ways. I also find, more importantly, that I used to have an all or nothing approach. So if I could only spend 10 minutes with Lenny or Pav, I wouldn't bother. Now I'm much more willing to break away from that and commit to low duration, high frequency activities. I think kids has forced that on me and I've embraced it. And what that means is you kind of approach life as filling up the cup regularly. And lastly, when it comes to experience on a day-to-day basis, what I find great satisfaction is something I originally poo-pooed. So you'll appreciate this. Every night Ali would check in with the kids and I found it completely pointless. Absolutely pointless. You know, they're asleep, they're not making any sound, what's the problem? But she'd go in there, check in them, tuck them in, and I've actually found that's part of my greatest joy every day, is that experience. You know, it started off as simple as they were on the other side of the bed, completely, you know, feet where the pillows were. Then it became just things like them sleeping calmly and peacefully, and as a parent, what it says to me is that we've done our job making them feel safe, appreciated, and that's really important to me, and I get great satisfaction out of that. So look, overall, happy plodding is my answer. There's no destination of sorts, and that's kind of in line with the conversations I've had with you, Lenny. I'm just plodding along. It's working for me. Perhaps you could call me a foraging nomad, just going from place to place, and yeah, that's my average day. Is that different to is that much different to your average day?
Yeah, it's much different to my average day, yeah. That's pretty much the same. Some would say plodding denotes a slow, easy pace. What's your take on that?
Plodding at the moment, I describe it as I'm somewhat following the shepherd, but I know I'm following the shepherd. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I don't really have, like I said, I don't have an invested interest in where I could be or could go. At the moment, I just know these are the things I'm focusing on, and that's where my attention is, and what happens, happens. Trust it'll be all right. To me, that's happy plotting. Cool. Next one.
Well, tell us about one of your most stressful times in your life.
Okay. Well, the absolute most stressful, you know somewhat about Lenny. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but what it came down to is with parenthood, you need to reevaluate your perspectives on life, or you don't need to, but I was put in a situation, I decided to embrace reimagining those possibilities, and it was very stressful to reimagine and investigate my perspectives on relationships, self, family, etc. In recent times, like I said before, emotions don't run as high or low, so I haven't recognized myself to be super stressful. In fact, I didn't actually realize I was stressed until we've taken this Christmas break, and then I've realized, wow, what it feels like to get sleep again. It's been quite incredible. But you know, like the type of things that have bothered me, I'm not going to talk about the Jai thing I wrote down in there. That was just like a token little example. But like, to be honest, probably one of the two most stressful things that have happened to me have been in the past month. One was yesterday. Like I know, yes, with you, Pav, yesterday we talked about that whole agitation thing. Like, I can't explain why it induced a sensation of frustration and anger, but it did. And to be fair, I'm actually really glad we spoke about it. I'm really glad you're here. It turned out the way it did. Thank you. But the other thing is, in the past, I wouldn't have actually said anything. And this is actually really funny because we've known each other for so long. We're such good friends, and I still wouldn't have said anything. I would have played the bitter, hold it, let it just pass, and I'll forget about it type of thing. And I'm really glad I spoke about it, and it gives me motivation to deal with that. Yeah, the other thing is, and I've kind of loosely mentioned this to you before, I won't go into detail because obviously this is a public video and the matter is still live, but the person I've hired recently has given me a lot of stress. I've actually lost sleep over it. The way that I described it to Ali was, with this person and their actions not meeting my expectations, it's actually caused me to second guess myself. A lot of times I come back home and I go, am I being unreasonable? Is it me? Have I done enough? And through discussion with people such as yourselves and Ali, I've actually recognized that I am being reasonable. But the line that I've really struggled to balance is that empathetic line of whether I'm being reasonable or not, there's still an acceptance that people, they go through peaks and troughs, and they also go through life adjustments. You know, and every type of role change produces that impact, and am I being empathetic towards that? It's been really difficult for me. And what I've actually learned from this is from what I'm gathering, my perception of how it's playing out seems to be quite aligned with other people, at least the way when I describe it to them. What's not in balance is how I decided to respond to it. Which was, I'm not going to go into it with this video, I'll talk to you about it afterwards. You might be surprised how I responded. But in the short stories for this video, I'm very grateful there was somebody that I report to that said, no, we'll treat it differently. And I'm very grateful for that. So that's my stressful times. It's all people. It's always been people.
It always is people. What are some problems you see with the world today?
So my tongue-in-cheek answer is I don't see any problems, all right? I don't see any problems because, to me, a problem implies there needs to be a solution. And when you imply there needs to be a solution, there's some form of entitlement or ownership to the outcome. And I don't see us as owning the earth, so I don't really see problems. But that's a tongue-in-cheek answer.
You're saying they're not your problems?
Oh, good clarification. I just think it comes down to right. Do we have a right to address? So instead, like for me, the phrasing that I prefer is concerns. I have bucket loads of concerns, but not necessarily problems. And it might seem nuanced, but it actually means something to me. And so, to start off with, why do I have concerns? Well, I like to. Is it Yuval Harari? Have you heard of him?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he's got this theory. Yeah. So he's got this theory where he suggests humans have risen to where they are today, because compared to all the other animals, what's different with humans is collaboration. We've been able to collaborate in larger numbers than any other species on this planet, and I do see where he's coming from with that. And so for me, if I talk about concerns with the world, I think about how can we foster increasingly larger collaboration between parties. So the concerns that I've got are overpopulation, strain on natural resources, and I guess my facetious comment there is, will human cannibals ever be socially acceptable? For me, COVID somewhat manifested this larger, but I've felt this way for a long time. I think Western medicine, its focus on life expectancy and human life at all costs, I think is flawed and has gone too far. And we've got this population that is growing large, but we don't have the support network for those people, whether it be the aged care system or who's looking after these people. But I don't think the quality of life, I'm not in the shoes of an 80-year-old or a 100-year-old, but me personally, and I know we've had this discussion before and there is some alignment, I just don't see the value in living beyond 80. I don't want to be a person where people only see me on my birthday and maybe Christmas if I'm lucky.
What if Western medicine went even further? As an 80-year-old, you could still head down to the beach and have a couple of beers and be mobile. Would that change your viewpoint?
So look, fair comment. And for me, it comes down to, again, you need the balance between the life expectancy and the quality of life. So today, there's a clear lag. Tomorrow, the answer could be different. And see, that's the other problem when we talk about problems. They're very static defined, whereas the boundary is actually constantly flexing. So in today's speak, with that lag, I think Western medicine needs to slow down and other supporting functions need to be compensated and developed. And perhaps this is a business opportunity for us moving forward. Absolutely. You know, everyone, all elders should be respected. Look, the last ones really come down to things like the Facebook generation, fake news, information overload. I just don't understand how people can actually filter information these days. Where's the truth from the bullshit?
Saying there's a lot of information, but it's not quality information.
Correct, and I don't know how people are taught the skills to critically evaluate it. I don't think they are, and I'm not sure how you can learn to do it. What is the kernel of truth anymore? That's a real concern for me moving forward. Why is it a concern? I don't know what it means for the ability of humans. I mean, perhaps this is outsourcing one thing and we can focus on others, but I just think it's very important to apply critical thinking, and with this information overload, it almost becomes impossible. And lastly, I'll read this out instead of talking it. In today's world, there's a huge focus on achievement as a static trophy. So for example, you have a sports team that's won, and you know, quite often the people say they won because they were best on the day, and they completely ignore all the effort, blood, sweat and tears that have gone into the preparation, not just for the day, but throughout the year, throughout their entire life. All the decisions they've made to build up to that point is, I'm not going to use the word ignored, that's probably disrespectful, but it's not put on the same type of pedestal as the effort on the day. And the problem for me is that same mentality then applies to our day-to-day life. We don't give consideration, or I don't believe people give enough consideration to the people and events that have triggered throughout their life to culminate to where you are today. And to me that's highly relevant, because when I've sat back and thought about my past, there's been key events and people that have inspired me that I couldn't even begin to unfathom and unravel until several years later. And on the same token, every interaction we have, we've got the capability to inspire someone in an unknown way. It could be positive, it could be negative. And when you start approaching things on a day-to-day basis from that point of view, it's very interesting how you start to change how you approach issues. And that's why I had that conversation with you yesterday.
That's an excellent point. Some people would say, that's one of the issues around understanding privileges or lack of privileges people have in life.
Yeah.
It's a culmination. Where you are in life is a culmination of all the events and opportunities you had. Yeah, I think that's a very salient point.
Thank you. Pav, you got anything? No. Cool, what's the next one?
Alright, well this one's interesting. Tell us about one of the best times of your life apart from getting married and having your kids.
Okay, yes. So a couple months ago, I actually a couple months ago I came across this term gain mindset, and I didn't really understand it at the time. I mean, the wording of it was quite literal. What gain mindset means is when you that when you perceive an event, you're motivated more by everything you've overcome to that point instead of being motivated by what comes next. And the reason it's relevant is being motivated by what comes next is lost mindset, and that's my natural mode. So when I think it's associated with being achievements driven, and you're focused on effectively what is the next trophy, what's the next thing you need to do, and then you can have a break. And so what I found once I've come across this term gain mindset and I started thinking about it more and integrate it into my life, I've noticed that you start to become more detached from what you're doing and focused on the overall enjoyment. So a good example is the treetop walks that we did the other day, right? That black course, the one that was completely stamina inducing. I was so fatigued, my legs were shaking, hands, I couldn't grip onto the ropes anymore. I really thought I was going to fall down. And in my mind, I was telling myself, I've already done so many steps. Just slow down, take one step at a time, be patient. And I came through and I did it. And then unfortunately, you get the next obstacle, it's all over the same thing again. And somehow I managed to keep that same mindset mentality for the second obstacle. But when we got to the third one, I was so fatigued. And I transitioned from the gain mindset to the loss mindset. And what happened was, before I fell, the very last step, I was thinking to myself, I just got to make it to the platform. I just got to make it. And I rushed it. And in the process of rushing it, I put my foot on the platform, fell down, and the rest is history. I didn't complete the course. I lost that patience. I lost that detachment. So that's where I get a lot of satisfaction from gain mindset. Have you come across that term?
I've heard the term, I don't know what it means. I can't.
Does it make sense now what it means?
To an extent.
What are you not sure about?
Well, what's the key difference between a gain mindset, say at work, versus a lost mindset?
Schedule. All right, so let's talk in the project space, all right? So with a schedule, you know that you've got an S-curve. So a curve that says you've completed this many activities at this point, you're 40% complete, you've got 60% left. So I'd be the type of person traditionally where my focus would be, okay, these are the next tasks in the next week, let's just get them done, right? And I didn't really focus on the S-curve, I just focused on where can I commit my existing attention right now, get it done. And then you move on and you just keep on rinsing and refreshing that perspective. Right, so that's a relatively familiar project environment or shutdown environment. But when we talk about gain mentality, what it is it's more, instead of being motivated by what do I have to do, it's being motivated by, okay, well, the 40% that I've done so far, it's required this amount of challenge, and you know what? I'm gonna keep on going because I've gone this far.
I like that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. There's some interesting books on motivation. I say one of the key ways to motivate yourself is actually measure your progress.
Yeah.
Reward yourself for progress made already, rather than looking at the future.
Yes.
What you haven't done.
Yes. And what I've found is with the gain mindset, I've personally, it's helped me become more detached from what I'm doing and step back, be less reactive and more proactive. I also find that when I'm dealing with teams that are in the dumps, I'm subconsciously trying to motivate them through game mindset. So that's been fascinating for me.
Okay. Well, ready for the next question?
Yeah.
What is the biggest challenge in your life right now?
Okay, biggest challenge in my life. So the notes say minimize trauma in child's life. And really what that comes down to is, as a parent, I'm trying to strike a balance between not wrapping the kids in cotton wool, but also not completely exposing them to life's harsh realities or introducing it in a drip feed type of manner. But that's their own experience of the world. The other factor that's key, for me at least, is I'm trying to minimize the amount of fear and frustration I'm trying to minimize the amount I induce of my fears and frustrations in them. So, for example, Jai and Ava, they've got completely different tendencies, and there are some things either of the kids do that completely frustrate me. But that doesn't mean that I should just constrict their ability to explore life through their own perspective. That's what I mean by minimizing childhood trauma. I want to give them I want to be able to support them to see life through their own way. And it can be really difficult at times. It really can. You saw what Ava was like with me today when I had to leave the house. And at the moment, she feels a little bit left out because I found a game that I play with Jai. Jai absolutely loves it. We're playing soccer. And as a fucking 3-year-old, this kid can volley the ball. He's such a natural athlete. I've taken a video of him slow motion. He actually kicks with follow through. Like, he kicks with so much follow through, he actually jumps up in the air. And it's not that I'm spending more time with him, it's just that when I'm spending that time with him, I'm very enthusiastic, and Ava is very perceptive, and she sees that, and it's manifested as a streak in her, and it came out like what you saw today. I'm conscious of I don't want to create that type of trauma or maintain that type of trauma. The other thing I've found is finding balance and integrity of check-in. So what that means is I didn't realize, I actually thought I was pretty stress-free this year. I thought I was sleeping well. I didn't realize that I was actually in a pretty, I don't know if the word is unhealthy, but I wasn't in as great state I could be until we took this Christmas break, and just having the time away from all the commitments, whether it's the motorsport or the work. The motorsport is such a heavy commitment, like it's ridiculous. I understand why people now have dedicated track cars, like to convert the car in between. It's just hours and hours. But I know for me, 2021 is going to be busy. We need to bump up our catch-ups. There's all the other things that are happening as well. We already know there's minimum 8 track days. There's a lot on, and for me, I was watching Under Siege 2 last night, and there was a quote: "Chance favors the prepared mind," and I support that wholeheartedly. And I've already started making conscious decisions in my mind over what type of commitments I'm willing to break or nudge on moving forward if there's a conflict. But I know I've got to keep the integrity of the check-ins in. Is that something you guys find easy to do?
What's that?
Are you checking in with yourself regularly, asking yourself?
No, not as often as I should. How about you, Pav?
I don't know, I've never really thought of it like that.
So, like, what I found is I'm spending more time, as I've gotten tired, I'm actually spending more time on self-recovery than self-inquiry. And so for me, the focus is accepting that I'm always going to have time to recover. I've got to build it into my schedule. So it's then about ensuring that I have self-inquiry that maintains integrity, not token self-inquiry, but genuine. And that's what moments like this is all about. What's the next one?
What would your ideal life look like 10 years from now?
That's simple, and I'm going to read it. I continue to challenge myself, perhaps not to broaden horizons, but instead deepen experiences. And what that really is about is, instead of taking, it's still about more new, but enriching the experiences instead of taking on new ones. Ooh. I continue to forge my relationship with Ali. We continue to challenge perspectives, share interests, and discover hobbies. And most importantly, do not become stagnant, complacent, or resentful. Do not settle.
That's wonderful.
And lastly, in 10 years' time, I better be a holder of the Porsche Club overall track record. One day I'll be there. But you know, I find this answer is quite different to anything I've said before. I actually have full confidence that everything will sort itself out. So for me, the focus is more about philosophy rather than a destination.
What's that mindset change you were talking about?
I think so. Yeah. So that's the video. Thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, till next time. Bye.